Let me share my main presentation screen. And today's session is going to be here. And let me set this so I can be sure. So today's session is on evaluation context in Power BI and also a walkthrough of the previous sessions we've had. So I'm going to put in a chat box an explanation of where the community really meets, in case you are not aware. And actually, we have people who keep thinking, oh, there must be a Telegram group, a WhatsApp group, and they're asking for a particular group link to be part of the community. And this is the link. So the community link is this. And also, previous sessions, we always have our recordings. If you've missed sessions and you want to go watch the recording of previous sessions are always on. So you will find the recording of previous sessions always on this link. You go here and you see this, the one we did last week. Then as for the sessions themselves, every 6 p.m. on Sundays, you can always click on the link. Just this one. So every Sunday at 6 p.m. Nigerian time. Okay. So maybe what I'll start with, so that I'll be quicker with that one and be done, will be the past sessions. Then I'm going to take us through a very important concept in Power BI. It's still a concept that I still go back to again and again. It's that tricky and also super important. That's what separates the people who do Power BI at an advanced, at a professional level, and those who are just enthusiasts who maybe just look for some simple data, slap some reports together, focus on just making it look beautiful. In the real world, clients will have needs. That is not, the visuals is going to be the least of your worries, because the visuals is very easy to know whether you've gotten it right or wrong if you already have an idea of what you want. But when it comes to the dynamics, the things that happen in real life with the data themselves, you will find out that you will do formulas that should work, and it will not work, or it will work correctly in one instance and not work correctly in another instance. And you begin to think about it, what have you done wrong? And most of the times what's happening is the formula begins to act funny as we think, because the contexts keep changing. So if you understand evaluation context, which is a combination of two things, row context and filter context, once we get that very well, you'll find out that Power BI or formulas, the dark part of Power BI, it's a bit more deterministic. It's not as random as you sometimes will think it is. The formula works correctly now, does not work correctly. In same formula, nothing has changed, but you are now not certain of if what you have done is going to stay correct. I've had that situation before. So let me start first of all with the one that I know I can finish in about 10, 15 minutes. Then we will do that one for the remainder of the day. So for those who just are joining, I have shared some links. I hope you can access them. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just share them again. so that okay, I'll share them much later into the session so I don't take too much time. All right. So every week, every Sunday, we have at 6 p.m. we hold this 1 hour session. It's not been easy, but uh it's not been perfect too. We used to have very high quality, when I say high quality, like people who are like who's who almost every week back to back. But then by the time we have gone through them all, we find out that we cannot keep inviting the same person every 3 months. So what's been the situation is now a case where we at some point we're having a whole lot of all the big names in the Power BI space showing up week after week. But because for them, they have not presented in Nigeria before, or maybe some even in Africa, it was a big deal for them. But then what happens is once we've got them all in, then it becomes tricky to find people of that same level again. And so you notice that uh, maybe we are not bringing in as many internationally well-known speakers as before. It's also not easy reaching out to people, getting their feedback. And so today now, what has happened is I think the speaker that should have showed up for today. I'm not so sure either that the speaker didn't show up or we didn't even have someone for today's slot. So I had to fill in. Okay, so but it's just I'm just saying that's part of the things that happen when we do it that frequently. But the truth is, you always want to keep moving, even if it's one person that benefits. Yeah, some other days on what the good thing is some people watch the recording, so it's not only people who show up. All right, so what are the sessions we've held before now? Last week, though this session changed a bit, this was not the one I talked about data fabric. But originally, the speaker was to talk about reports, design principles for effective reports and dashboards in Power BI. The one before that, I'm surprised why this is blank. I think there was someone in here. Can't remember. I'll check with my colleague who does more of the handling right now. Then we had Prince take us on transforming data in Power Query. All of these that I'm showing us, right? If you go on the YouTube link, you will also find them. So let me even see if I can. This is this Prince's one. Oh, I think we probably didn't have Power BI session last week. Okay. So going back here, welcome to those just joining. So I'm just walking us through the sessions that has happened. And then after that, I'm going to take us through evaluation context in Power BI. And you're going to find this really interesting. I hope I open your eyes to some really amazing things. But let's first get this one done first. So the sessions that I've been holding before now, and you can always grab the recording link here. So the recordings, share that again so that you can always have that direct link to see the sessions that have happened. So we also have Salif, you know, before Prince session, the week before that, it was Salif taking us through cube functions. Cube functions are actually Excel functions, but that was the way we structured that week. We decided to mix things up a bit. Then we had Chibuzo take us on user-friendly reports in Power BI. Then my colleague Tolulope took us on Power BI service best practices. I know that aspect of Power BI doesn't get as much light as the Power BI desktop one. So this is Power BI service, the web portion. Microsoft keeps changing things around, moving things around, but it's also a very important aspect of your Power BI expertise journey. You should be able to navigate here very well, also be able to manage workspaces, maybe be familiar with development pipelines, uh, work on apps, deploy apps, applications. So this is another aspect of Power BI that is also very important, and you can miss it. You can keep learning Power BI and probably be completely in the dark about most of the things that you should be aware of about in here. So it was a nice one that she took us on Power BI services. Power BI service. So that's the web one. Power BI desktop is the tool itself. So that you understand, this one is a Power BI desktop. The web one is a Power BI service. And then the week before that, I did a combined session. Like I did it for the Excel. I did also the same thing for the Power BI. So it was Excel versus Power BI. And my explanation was that you should learn both, Don't think Excel versus Power BI, like you should know only Power BI or you should know only Excel. You should know both. That's the way the real world is now, structured. That's what the workplace will find valuable, someone who knows both. Text manipulation and data cleaning in Excel. Text manipulation and data cleaning. That was the one before that by my colleague Temidayo. Then we had data modeling in Power BI. Ahmed took us on that one. Then how to embed Power BI in different platforms. You want to embed your reports on Teams, and I think you can even in PowerPoint. I've not really explored that, but one of my so where I consult right now, we had a change in leadership. So the new head of department, came to me and was just introducing, he was doing that for everyone. So it wasn't like he singled me out. And something he mentioned was that, he mentioned that they started using our board level for their PowerPoint. And I was like, okay, how come? I've never really tried it. I'm always aware, but I've never really tried it because somehow I feel why not just put up the Power BI presentation itself and make it full screen? It will look like PowerPoint once you do that. I'm going to try to explore it more, but I'm just trying to point out that there is a whole lot more to how people are using Power BI reports, that some of these things help you to think outside of your normal comfort zone, outside of your comfort area, and you begin to see things a bit more creatively, you begin to think outside of the box. And then the session before that was on using PowerPoint to build dashboards in Power BI. I used to do that. I have some reports that I did. So there was a project I got that I worked on, uh, was for a big retail FMCG company. I will have mentioned the name, but I'm looking at all of us here. I'm just careful not to mention. Uh, so, but there's nothing confidential really about what I want to say, except the fact that I used Power BI, I mean PowerPoint, to design the reports. How do I cancel from here? Okay, great. So what I did was I opened PowerPoint, and then the PowerPoint's default slide is, if you ask me, is similar shape as what you have on Power BI. Look at Power BI. It's similar. That's what I found out. Like it's very, they maintain the same aspect ratio and relative size. So if I wanted to do a report that, for instance, now I want to make it look really interesting, and I don't want to be doing all those design here, and I want it to look like an image so that my report does not become heavy, or things will start to, when I want to click something will be in the way of it. So sometimes I go to PowerPoint, and then I'm just going to do something dramatic so that you see the effect, but I don't usually do this type of coloring. I could do a black color, or let's pick something a little subtle. So maybe I pick this, and then I'm going to insert, insert a shape. I use a lot of rectangles. So maybe I want a menu here. I always take out the shape outline, no outline. So probably this will be white. Okay. And then so maybe I want to put a chart here. So maybe this chart I want to put here, I'm going to make this white, no shape outline. I want to put a pie somewhere. Another insert. I'm going to stop really soon with what I'm doing, but I want you to see the effect. I could decide that I want to put things that will look very similar here, or that will be grouped together. Maybe cards. I can put cards here. Okay. Put cards. Yeah. Power BI has, and PowerPoint has this format painter. I can click here, format painter, put it here, let it have the same format. Then I'll just do two more things. I can drag this here, and this will be all of here. Then one more here. So I can put our logo. Start to bring in the logo. I think this is the logo. And yeah, so now maybe this is what I want. All I need to do is I go to File, Save As, right? Then I pick an image. I think it works nicely with JPEG and PNG. So I'm going to pick, let's pick JPEG. Let's pick that first. So I'm going to say Power BI background. So this is just this one. So I need to go find where it has saved it. So if I go to Power BI, I can go to the format part, go to wallpaper, choose an image. Now that's the trick. Now I need to remember where this thing saved. I didn't take special notice. So let me just check where I saved it. So I go back here, save as. This is interesting. Browse document. So it's saved in my document. So I'm going to go here, change this to details, then dates. So this is it. Okay, so I think with that, I don't need this. So the problem, I'm sure you've seen something. By the way, I can here, go back here, tell it to fit. Okay. So now it is looking as I want. The only problem is my logo is not sharp. That's the only thing I've always noticed. So I usually don't put the logo there. I just wanted to try it now, but I know I've experienced it before and I can see it happening again. So I will take out the logo. I don't put logo. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go to Save As, pick, in fact, Browse. I think we pick JPEG, pick the same one, let it replace. So just this one. I need to undo. Okay. So I'm going to go back here. wallpaper fit, but I'm going to replace the image with this one. And then I'll set it to fit. You see? With this now, I can start to add, charts, I can bring this, position it where I want, make it bold, make it big. Probably I'm going to add a chart. Maybe a chart is meant to be here. So it's as if I've created the styling. A card, maybe 3 cards will be here. Can have a card here. So the idea is that, I leveraged PowerPoint to design the visual component of at least to design the background, the layout of my report. Okay. So I'm going to leave this as it is. It's looking nice. Really quick. If you try to do this within Power BI, it's going to be a bit problematic. So that's why PowerPoint can be nice. So she took us through our own style too, and it was really interesting. I know I've been using it, so it wasn't completely new to me, but a lot of people got value from this. Then we had a session that was on advanced SQL query. I was just mentioning it to people on the Excel session that, I even bought a book on SQL recently. And why will I be buying a book on SQL? Why am I not, trying to learn AI or buy a book on Azure? Anyway, I'm learning Azure, but if you buy a book on Azure, that's not the best way to learn Azure. Microsoft keeps changing things in that platform, that the book you buy will not be as updated as you going through the Microsoft documentation. But the reason is SQL is not going anywhere. And for me, I had my first certification in SQL in 2008. I even used to train people on SQL. I use it, but I know that SQL is so wide. I was telling one of my colleagues, when we were setting up training, that we should be careful. SQL is much wide. It's very wide. There's the application development side of SQL. There's the DB management side. It has a lot of wide aspects. But the good news for any one of us in the analytics side is people are not going to be expecting you to be creating tables. They're not going to be expecting you to be tuning database. So we are lucky that we're only going to be expected to know how to query DBs, which makes things easier. If it's that part, if you ask me, that's one of the easiest part of SQL. You just querying data. And so you find out that you just need to learn about 7 clauses, select, from, where, having, order by, group by, like. So the things you need to learn are not so much, and you're able to achieve everything. It's just that you need to have them at your fingertips so that you don't make funny mistakes, embarrassing mistakes, and also so that you also need to know how to use the joins, inner join, outer join. So by the time you do that, as far as you are concerned as an analyst, you are SQL proficient. You don't need to know how to probably even set up a DB, make sure replicas are running. You don't need to know. If you know them, that's good, but nobody's going to expect you to know that or to do that as a data analyst. Then your job has changed if they're expecting you to be tuning DB. So he walked us through some SQL query techniques. Then Temidayo did time intelligence. Then my colleague Tolope did filters in DAX. So I'm looking at time. So I'm going to probably pause, maybe when we get to January 1. So all of these things that I'm showing us, these are the sessions we've had, and you can always access the recording on this link. So I'm sharing them again. I see someone has put in a join. Yeah, those are my family members. You are already familiar with SQL. So recordings are here. You can by yourself go through the recordings. Anyone that you find interesting that you missed, you watch. And as regards the session, we this is the community, this is the platform. So if you keep thinking, is there a special group, a WhatsApp group, a Telegram group, where we always pass all the information, then this is it. This is the community group. Make sure you join. So once you join, you will always be in the loop of everything, announcement, reminders. Is there any other thing? And every Sunday at 6 p.m., just join this link. So every Sunday, 6 p.m. So if you are the kind of person that you rather use your own calendar, then set it up on your calendar that every Tuesday, every Sunday at 6 p.m. Nigerian time. Then great, we will always, like today, I'm not the one that was originally planned to speak today, but rather than us not having anything, it's only on the financial modeling one that we always struggle when we don't get a speaker, then nothing happens. But for Power BI and Excel, we always try to make something happen. So that brings me now to today's major one. So that's it about the reviews. I know I jumped a bit. I said maybe let's just do this up until January. So before the filtering, using exploring filters using DAX in Power BI, for that session we had Prince take us on connecting data sources in Power BI. The session before that was Olashile by Olashile. It took us on Power BI as a BI business intelligence tool. Then we had Faith take us on Power Virtual Agent in customer service. I think I remember some of our session, where she was walking us through how you can build like an automated way of extracting data from I think she showed us some forms, and you wanted to extract data from some forms and maybe build uh like customer service bots, if I remember correctly. But it was an interesting one. So if you're interested in automation, AI that is not going to require you to do coding, then you might want to check it out. And it's part of the Power Platform tools, so Power BI, Power Automate, and all of that. Then we had Akoji take us on Kubernetes. It was like something completely new to most of us during his session, but he did a very good job of explaining it to us. Even for those of us who thought that, okay, now I know it, but I don't think I'll be using it. At least, if I hear people talk about Kubernetes, I'm not going to be completely at a loss. I now understand what it's about. Then we had Jamal from US take us through a demo, you know, of how he built a toy store analysis in Power BI. And he explained that he did all of that with not so much, like he just used his knowledge from Tableau, and so he was explaining that you can achieve a lot without waiting. You don't need to wait. You don't need to go and do like 1 year course before you start taking up a practical task. You need to take a lot of practice. And you see a lot of people attending this session, 300 well, not 304 show up, but we had a lot of people show up. 304 people indicated interest in this session. Then before that, Ifeanyi took us on paginated reports. Most people don't know that there are two types of this Power BI desktop. There's the Power BI reports desktop or report server desktop. Power BI. I keep mixing up the name. So we have the Power BI report builder. So that one helps us to build paginated reports. But it's not so common. It used to be common at the start, but I guess because it's not so very flexible. So, and nowadays with apps, you can kind of achieve some of what it does, but it didn't gain as much ground as the one that most of us talk about, this Power BI desktop. So what my colleague then, I find he did was to take us through how to use it. You have to be aware of everything. You don't want to join a company and they're talking about, and you maybe already have paginated reports, and you are like, you don't even understand what this is. And I'm asking you, well, what did they used to build it? And they're like, You're not supposed to know this is Power BI. Like, no, this does not look like Power BI. Well, it doesn't look like Power BI, but yeah, Power BI used to do stuff like that. Reports that are paginated. That's why they call it paginated. Okay, so it took us on that one, and then before that, it was Rachel taking us on Power Automate. Power Automate is something that is gaining ground greatly. If you are the kind of person starting in this whole journey and you are not really an analytics person, but you like poking around, you like trying to connect things, then you might actually find Power Automate something that you can hit the ground running quickly. The learning curve is much smaller, it's much kind of shorter and easier than Power BI. And the market is there. It might not be very, very big in Nigeria, but it's also there. So, and that's it. So I'm going to go to today's other topic, which is row context and filter context. If you have any questions, you can indicate before I go on. Maybe you have any questions as regards the past sessions that I just, or anything I've mentioned so far. Any questions? No questions? If you want to speak, raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to unmute you. So Aderemi's hand is up. I'm going to go to where I'm able to make him or her a presenter. Okay, so please, yes, I've given you a presenter right. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Good evening, Michael, and good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, I've had time to go through your YouTube videos, but I have a question to ask.
Yeah.
There are some data sets that I use during the course of trying to manipulate, cleanse some data sets and draft visualization. How can we have access to such data sets so we can walk through just as we watch the videos?
Do you remember the one that it's about so I can check?
And it was just about two or three of them. I can't remember the specific ones.
If you can, I'll put our email. So if you can, just send us an email with the names of those ones. So we
Okay.
will send it to you and we will also go on the video and include it in the
Okay.
description so that others too can access it.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I think we should be thanking you because if you have that question, I'm sure other people too have it. So we solving it will solve issues that other people are facing. Thank you very much. Okay, so I guess maybe that's the only question for now. I'm going to go to what I now have planned for the second half of today's session. So row context and filter context. Together they are called evaluation context. So this is it. In Power BI, you will have data so that nobody's confused about this aspect that I bring in data. Now, there's something I need you to be aware of. The fact that when you type formulas in Power BI, right, it's not the same way if you're used to Excel. It's not the same way the formulas will behave as, in Excel, I can copy a formula for you and say this formula will work. You just paste it in the exact cell it needs to be, and it will work. I can beat my chest and say, you know, if you tell me the formula is not working, it means you did not follow my instruction or you did not paste it where I asked you to paste it or to type it. But in Power BI, like if I even me myself, I can do a formula today and it's working and tomorrow it's not working and I'll have to start digging around what has changed. So Power BI it can be problematic with the formula part and it's because of three things and two of them are context related. So let me mention the first one. The first one is the fact that unlike in Excel where everything has an address, you could be saying this is this. If this was Excel now, I could be saying that this will probably be this will probably be the first cell will be A1, and then another cell will be probably, B4, and like that. So the ability to be able to say this will always be A1 and formulas we do, we pick only that place, we don't have it. We don't have anything like a particular location, what we have in Power BI is that you pick an entire column. So you're always picking an entire column. You're never able to specify that, oh, the fifth record in this column. So that's one drastic difference between what we do in Excel. And because of that, a whole lot of things begin to, it makes it look like you can't really transparently see what is happening until you probably see the answer. So let's start with the one that everybody can easily understand. If you look at my table, I have price and I have quantity. What do you think is missing? Anybody wants to take a guess? What do you think is missing? I have the product name. I have each price we have sold the product for and the quantity for that transaction. So what do you think is missing? Imagine this is your store. What is one thing you will want to see that is not present right now in this table? The sales. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say selling price, but the sales amount, the price times the quantity. So we can create it, right? Now, when we want to create it, we all are familiar with the concept that in Power BI, you can create a new column, which maybe that's what I want. So let's create a new column. I come here and I say I want to create a new column. So the moment I click on new column, it asks me, to type in the new column. So I'm going to say sales. I'm going to call the column sales amount. So that will be the name. Then I'm going to say is equal to, so this is that thing I'm saying. I can't go and be clicking and saying this times this, I have to specify the entire column and say it's going to be equal to the price column times the quantity column. So most of us are already used to this, but I'm just explaining it per adventure. There's someone who maybe his or her feet are still shaky, so they get to understand that you need to write out the column names. And you see, I didn't type them fully. The moment I started typing, the names came out. So we call them IntelliSense. So what I try to do is I type something that is unique. Instead of me typing big data, when I have too many things, I will just know since I want quantity, why not type, even if I type TYTY, something that is unique about it, it will pop it up. So, and I do a tab key to pick it. Once I have done what I want, which is I'm saying this column price times quantity, I commit it like doing enter or click on this check mark. It does it, right? Now, the thing I want you to understand is it's going to do different values for different rows. What do I mean? When the quantity is 1, you see it's 4,000. Let's pick a record where the quantity is something else. Can you see? So the calculation I'm having here is the equivalent of this is different per each row. So it's going row by row and it's calculating those values for me. We call this row context. I typed one formula, but the formula is computing multiple times. If I have, let's see how many records we have. I have 2 million uh, rows here. That formula has computed 2 million times, if I can say that, it has calculated values that are differently calculated for each of those 2 million records. So this is not difficult to wrap our heads around, but I need to make it clear. So we have row context. Okay, now there's something else we also have. We have what is called filter context. I'm going to come back here and show you how it is different from row context. But let's first of all go to where we need to understand what a filter context is really easily. So the one I just finished, is called row context. And all calculated columns are Let me not, because there's something about that. So let me not add that so I don't confuse us. For now, what I've explained is row context. So let's go to the next one. The next one is filter context. So I'm going to go here. Now, filter context, they come majorly from different sources like let me add them. Let's delete this for now. I'm going to add a slicer. Yeah. We've moved the location a bit. Slicer, I'm going to put, let's put a product there. And just say I don't want blank. Okay. So yeah, so for now, I'm going to change this to a drop down so that it will fit the space that I have. So if I come here and I'm going to change it to a drop down. So that way to be easy for me to fit it into this space. So let's for now keep it here. So I have a slicer over there. I'm going to put a table over here. So I'm going to put a table. Maybe I'll put it at this bottom. The space here is bigger. So I'm going to put a table here. Let's use a matrix table. So a matrix table gives me a bit more flexibility. It's like pivot table. Okay. So let's do something really straightforward. At the end of a day, you will want to see the products, each product, right? Good. And then you will want to see those products and see probably the quantity that we sold and then also the sales amount, the money we made. Okay. So imagine that these are what I want to see. Okay. Let's now talk about filter. I'm going to add something more somewhere. I'm going to add a pie chart. I'm going to add a pie chart here. So in this pie chart, I'm going to put time range and say I want to see based on different time of the day, the money we made. So it looks like we made most of our sales after 12 p.m. I'm going to use something else that probably has more fields. So let's talk about order quantity. So people who ordered 5 in one go, people who ordered 1 product in one go. So great. So we use the order quantity. Okay. Why am I doing all of this? I want to explain to us filter context. So this is filter context. The fact that when I do a calculate, when I have something on my report and I pick something somewhere, it affects. See, all of this has changed. Let me do that again. And you see these figures are changing. So this is filtering this one. So what that means is what you are seeing here, these are calculations. But because we dragged, we don't know. If only I can show you, you can see that it has done a default calculation for us. It did sum, right? So you didn't type the calculation, but it does what it did. It did a sum. If I wanted average, I would choose average, and the calculation will change to show average. Average sales. Yeah, I think it has changed. Let's do that again. Oh, I did it on the wrong place. Let's do it on this particular one. So if you look at my screen, by default, he did sum. If I had wanted something else, I wanted average. If I pick average, you see that this has changed, right? So what I'm letting you know is, even though you did not do a calculation, this thing is doing what we call an implicit calculation for you. It is already creating a calculation. You can change the calculation it is doing. And most importantly, right, you can write the calculation yourself. I could have come here and say I want to do a new measure, and I'm going to call that measure total quantities. So I'm going to call it total quantity. Someone says you can't see the screen. Are others seeing the screen? I see the screen on my other computer. Is there anybody else who can't see the screen? Well, anyway, let me try and stop sharing and share again. But I can see the screen. Almost everyone says they can. In that case, Ibrahim, maybe you log out and log back in. So it looks like you're the only one. So it's Teams, it's technology stuff. They don't work 100% all the time. So okay, so thanks for confirming others. So let me zoom my screen. I'm going to now do total quantity is equal to. So what am I doing? I'm going to do the formula myself. Sum of quantity. Okay. So by me doing this myself, what I have achieved is I am doing exactly what this was doing for me. By default, it was doing this, but now I have done it myself. So if I put this here, you will see that I will get the same answer. Can you see I'm seeing the same answer? But more interestingly, when I click here, I'm not going to be seeing the options of default, all these calculation options. I'm not going to see them. Why? Because when I do my own measure, then that's what I want. That's exactly what I want. It is not Power BI that is calculating it for me. Unlike this one that when I drag a field, then it tries to aggregate for me. So now that that is out of the way, the question I want to ask us is that the point I want to make before I ask the question, the point I want to make is that for filter contexts, when you are working on the report layer, this report layer, it is the most active one. So by default, it is always happening, and it can come from someone going here and saying, I want to see only one chicken. So I pick the slicer. The moment I pick it, my formula changes, everything changes around, so that's called filter context. The fact that this is I've picked something somewhere that is affecting the outcome of my calculations. Okay. Then it can also come from picking something somewhere. I picked something here. It is affecting what is calculated here. Even though my formula is the same, if you look at the formula, it has not changed. Yet the answer is changing. The answer is now 214760. If I pick something else, the answer is now changed. Whereas the formula is the same, and the underlying data too is the same. The data underneath has not changed. My data is still the 2 million something rows. Okay. So back to here. So that's number one. Number two about filter context is that filter context is also something that, let me look at my time. It's also something that you want to be able to control. So let's start with the difference between row context and filter context. Okay. So I'm going to start with, we didn't have an amount sold. We didn't have an amount sold. In the beginning, we did not have this. If you remember, we created it ourselves, right? But we created it here. Okay. Now, and if you look at how we created it, so I'm going to copy this formula, right? Then I'm going to go here to the reports level, and say I want to create a measure. I want to create a measure that will be the sales amount. So I can call it sales measure so that everyone is clear as to which one was done by as a measure. Okay. Do you think this formula will work? The same thing that we have, you saw me copy that one, right? I'm pasting it here as a measure. Do you think it will work? Anybody? What do you think? I'm waiting for opinions. Do you think this formula will work? Someone says no. Anybody think it will work? Yes. Anybody in the yes category? Okay, so not to take too much time, Kuban is correct. If I do enter, I'm going to get an error. So why am I getting an error? Huh? Perfect. So Kuban has answered it. See? So why I'm getting an error is this. Time disconnect measure. This is spelling of measure. Why I'm getting an error is the fact that when I did this formula here as a column, right? A column always understands that it will do different calculation for different rows because a column will have as many rows as you have in the original data. But when you do a measure does not create multiple entries per rows. A measure is just one answer. It's just one, it's like an aggregator, you know. So a measure, we always want to give you one answer. The answer can now be made to change based on how you put it on the visual, right? So in summary, what I am saying is that a measure has no knowledge of rows. It doesn't, that's what also uh, Kubana said, is missing the row context, but that's a big word, you know. So a measure does not understand that, you know, when you say price, when you say quantity, yes, I know that there is a price column, there is a quantity column, but I don't know which one I am to pick. Which one are you, which particular record am I to do these times what, you know? Whereas when I did it here, this one knows that when it's on this row, it will pick this price times this column. When it's on another, it picks this price one. But when you are doing a measure, it does not know that. So a measure will always be expecting you, right, to do one of two things. Either you are aggregating for hits, tell it that, okay, do the sum of price multiplied by the sum of quantity. Then it will now understand, oh, okay, I should go to the price column, sum up all the values, go to the quantity column, sum up all the value, and then the final outcome, you know, I should multiply them. It will do that, right? But the answer will be wrong. Okay, so if I wanted the same answer, so if I put this, that which we have done now, this sales measure, if I put it in the table, so if I put it on this table, you will see that the value is just, this is a lot. This is, you know, it's gigantic, if I can use that word. So this is not correct. And why? What it is doing is, it's taking for barbecue chicken. It sums up all of the price. So the price is now going to be wrong. Barbecue chicken is 4,000. By the time you sum it up, maybe it comes to 18,000. Then it sums up the quantity. That one is correct. But the fact that it's summing up the price is wrong, right? So it's either one of two things. If I know that I'm going to be using it this way, so it's either I am doing average, it's either I'm doing average of the price so that it picks the price. So can you see that it's looking similar, but something is still wrong? All the individual ones are correct. The total is wrong. Why? It is because when the prices are different, average is not going to be correct anymore. Okay. So the only way that I could have done the same thing this is doing is if me too, I go one by one, and I start to pick. So in that case, we need to now tell our measure, tell it to be, make it to be context aware. So what we'll be doing we'll be telling it to go. So it will be sum, but iterate, go every record by record. So go through the table. These are our big data table, right? So when you go through the table, pick every specific price. So it will now be average. No, it will now be price times quantity. So it will now be doing exactly what uh we achieved with this one. What we are doing here, where we are saying go into this table and be going every single. So that's what that other this sales say some X also does. So it's an iterator, it's a formula that we now give it a row context. I know it's sounding a bit big, but don't worry, I'll make it simpler. I'm just trying to explain that, when you do a measure will never allow you to start typing the columns directly. If I had not used an iterator is a formula that allows it to now go into each table, go into the supplied table and begin to go column by row, be going iterating through the rows. If I don't use an iterator, if I take away all these iterator parts, my formula will not run because by default, a measure does not have any awareness of row by row data. So if I want to give it an awareness of row by row data, then I will have to use a specific formula that tells it to go row by row in a particular supply table. So we call those formulas X formulas, iterator formulas. One is one is sum X. We have average X. There are a couple of them, average X, uh, mean X. So a lot of all the aggregation formulas have X, and then filter too is an aggregator. So most people don't think of it that way, but so let's even now see what this does. So this will work, it won't complain anymore. Okay, so I have a small question for us. I'm going to drag this back. Okay, great. So you see on the table that is working is now matching, total and everything is matching. So what have I achieved? Now is when it will make sense to you. We have done the same thing. Sales measure. You can look at the table, they are correct. But guess what? When I was doing it as a measure, right, I had to write it differently. I needed to use a particular formula that will make it be aware of um of the row context, an iterator formula, and told it that, okay, please make this my formula. This is the original formula I want to type, but please make this my formula to be possible in a measure by letting it know that this is the table I want you to go into, and I need you to go iterate, go it into it row by row, and then calculate a sum for me. Okay, so but when I was doing that same formula here, all I needed to do was simply just do this, right? So I want to ask us a question. The question is, this total quantity we did, we did a formula total quantity, and it's giving us the total quantity correctly. If you look at it, I'm getting total quantity correctly. And in this formula, this was what we did, sum of the quantity. If I take this formula as it is now, and I go here to our table, and I create a new column, right? And I tell Power BI that I want to do total quantity. Let me use this way so that way it will be spelled differently from that other one. And I do this. What do you think will come out? What will I have? Anybody wants to take a guess? Anyone? Anyone wants to take a guess? What will be the outcome? I've spent my time, but I'm almost at the end. Anybody? What do you think will come out? Yeah, a single value will come out. Oh, oh, good. Yeah, you are all both correct. So once I do this, right, I'm getting a single value. I'm getting the entire total value. I'm getting this 631,246. Why? Why am I getting that? So you are beginning to see that there's something different. When I do a formula as a measure and I do a formula as a calculated column, things are looking different. The same formula, I'm getting different outcome. So why is that happening? Okay, so the situation is that when you use sum, a formula that is not an iterator, when you use sum, an aggregator formula, right? Sum is an aggregator, is a formula that looks at a column and it adds up what is inside. Now, sum by itself does not go row by row to start checking one row at a time. Okay. So the moment you use an aggregator formula within a calculated column, what happens is it does not have any awareness of a filter context. It does not have any awareness that, I'm doing, let me drag that outcome here. So let's put it here. Yeah, let me not complicate. Let's just leave it here. So you'll see that it's giving me the same answer. It's just sum up all of this value in the sales, in the quantity column. It summed everything up and it's giving me the same answer everywhere because it's not aware that there is a filter anywhere. That's just the right way to say it. It might sound somehow. So, but the key thing is the fact that the same formula, when I type it as a measure, I'm getting the behavior that I want. When I typed it as a measure here and I plugged it here, I got what I wanted, right? But when I type the same formula as in here as a column, it's behaving differently. So that's the first thing I want you to understand, that there are two things that always affect your formula. There's the row context, which will always affect a column, a calculated column, and there's a filter context that will always affect measures. So the next question is, when you know this, how can you begin to make things work in the way you want? Okay, so if I know, okay, so Cuban is asking me, can I put some X in the column to force it to calculate each row? Now, can I come here and put some X to make it calculate each row? So let's think about it, how some X works. So some X works this way. Some X is going to go, we ask you, let's look at it from, some X is going to ask you, what table do you want me to iterate to? So you tell it that you want it to iterate through the big data table. Then what do you want it to do? It should do price times column quantity. Now, when you do this formula, it will want to give you, it will be expecting, let me tell you what it's doing. It will take the filter context. It's also expecting a filter context. So it will take a filter context. Now, remember, this does not have any filter context because remember what I told us, the filter context comes from filter and all these things that happen on the report layer. So there's no filter context that is applying on this table layer, right? So you can even see where I'm going to. So because there's no filter context happening at that layer, so what will happen is it will still go and do this formula. It will do for each row by row, but it will sum it up. And as you can see, it's giving me the total value that we got here. You see, it's giving me the same total. So it's not the solution. If I want to really solve it, what I'll be doing is this. I'll be using a calculate and say, calculate for me, uh, calculate. It doesn't even matter how I pick this because I'm going to tell it to do So I will use this unique number, serial number, right? So I'm going to tell it to do for me, calculate the average price. So I'm just using this average. Average of one figure is the same figure. Average of 4 is 4. Sum of 4 is 4. I could use anything, but because I can't just write the formula that way, so I'm going to just wrap it. I can't put the column. I need to put it in an aggregator. So that's why I'm putting it in average, but it doesn't have any effect. I could put max or mean or sum, because when you have one value, you do average, mean, max, whatever you do is the same value that will come out, times average of quantity. So I'm doing price times quantity. I could even do sum if I want. It doesn't matter. Don't worry, when we are done, we'll change it. You will see that it does not have any effect. The main thing is I will say where the serial number. So where the serial number, where the so I'm going to put a filter there. In calculate, once you can add a filter. So if you want, you can say filter and say, but let's not use the long process. So I'm just going to say where the big data serial number is equal to the one I am in. So the one I'm on, when I'm on 7223, then right, 7223. So one easy way, there are two ways. I can use earlier to get me the value of the where I am. So if I say earlier big data serial number, that will get me the serial number of this particular row I'm in. So let's see what that does. Then I'll show you what we can adjust to make it human readable. It's taking a lot of time because I have millions of rows. Can you see that this is now matching what we have, right? So the trick is I needed to use calculate to limit what this formula we see, to only this row. So when I'm here, it will only see this row. So that when it calculates, then I'll get what I want. So that's what this is doing. This is saying help me to limit it to only that place where I am. So nowadays, when you could have achieved the same thing by just first of all using var to get out so you say current item. Current item equals big data this. So I will now tell it to return uh, return let me just put them on the same line so that for now we are not bothered about formatting. So where it is equal to the current item. So that way I don't need to use earlier anymore. So this one gets for me, first of all, before we start to go into any of these, first of all, grabs the current serial number. Then when I'm here, this one will now be comparing all of the serial numbers against that one to limit it to the one I want. So if I do enter, you'll see that I'm still going to get the same answer. So that's the way that I will now be allowing. So this is useless if you ask me, because we use the same thing. It's just because you asked me that question. Otherwise, I don't need to do this. This is like a very complex way to achieve the same thing. But there are some other cases. Maybe I want to find bonus, or there will be other cases. Maybe I want to rank. I want to rank top sales. I want to do something that needs to look for other records and rank based on that. Then okay, then this will be really good. Like for the rank now, it could be, if I wanted to rank would be like count rows in so I could just say count rows in filter all of this table, big data and Let's do this. Let's rank them by the sales. Yeah, let's rank them by the sales amount. So all these sales amounts, get them for me. Then only the one where the sales amount is bigger than, is greater than. So imagine all of us, we are earning 2 million naira, right? And then one person is earning 2.5. How do you know that that person is ranked number one? If you pick his own salary and you look at everybody's salary, you now say, okay, count where everybody's salary is higher than this guy. You will find out that nobody's salary is higher than his own. So he's kind of at the top, right? Then if there's one person whose salary is higher than his own, then that means he will be on second to that person. So that's why this count rows makes it easy. So I'm just going to say count where sales amount. Let's do the sales amount here. So this will be current sales. So count where the current sales, the sales amount is greater than the current sales. Yeah. So if I do this, it will give me 0 for the person that is the highest. So I need to just do +1 so that it will now be like, okay, since you're highest, except if we want to do highest equals to 0. But if we want to use the usual expectation of highest is 1, so next is 2. So with this one now, it now makes sense because there's no other way I will have achieved this. Filter or it should be here. This one should be outside. Okay, so it begins to rank. Let's see truly if it is ranking it correctly. If I sort this descending order, can you see that it has correctly ranked it, right? Such that 20,000 is the highest. And if I scroll down, let me just scroll faster. If I scroll, can you see that 16,000 is the next highest? So knowledge of this makes life easy when you want to create those funny calculations on the calculated column. You want to rank items and you need to first of all factor all the other items before you can rank them. Then this makes it work. But similarly to when you want to do some calculations that need to go row by row and you're using measure, then you need to be aware that you have to find a way to pass in the row context into your formula. Again, I don't expect that you will get it completely, in this short one, but the key thing is to let you be aware. Let's even set the stage. Let you be aware that these two things exist and that they are the reason why sometimes your formula will work and sometimes it will not work. And the logic of the formula, as far as you are concerned, looks correct. So I'm going to have to end here because of time. But thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, any questions before I end the session? Okay, any opinion, any suggestion, any comments from anyone? Okay, so if no questions, if no comments, I'm going to stop here then. So thank you. Oh, you have questions. Oladimeji, you have questions, right? Yeah, thank you, Kuban. Your question was really helpful. Should I give you a speaker role? So let me make Oladimeji a speaker then. Okay, so I've made you a speaker, Oladimeji.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly, yes.
Okay. The question is the usual question always asked by Temidaya about how did you get
Oh,
yeah, I think
my
you remember
journey.
that. Your journey,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's true. Okay, so for me, my journey started. It's interesting. My journey started 2011. So I used to be in March 2011. That was my first job outside of NYC. I got a job as a radio access engineer. So I was a technical engineer. I was a telecommunications engineer, but I was not doing anything data analysis related. So it was with Nokia Siemens. So I was there from March till September. They lost a lot of business. I enjoyed the job actually. So I was going around. That time, Etisalat was expanding in the southeast. So I was attached to a senior colleague. So we're doing what they call upgrade, where maybe there used to be only one mast in an entire village. We go there and they will have engineers, civil engineers, and other people have installed maybe two more masts. So we are the ones who go to commission to bring it live, do user acceptance test and so on. So it used to be very interesting because you're always on the road, and so I enjoyed it, but unfortunately and fortunately, because that's what made me to be where I am. So it's no longer unfortunate, but then it was unfortunately by September they let everybody that they hired that year, they sacked us all. But it was not like they had any problem with us. Even people that had been with the company for 20 years, 30 years, a lot of people, even from continent, Africa aired, because the company is a very big company. So it was a really big shake-up that nobody has, it's like it has never happened in the history of the company. But they lost a lot of business. So that was why. So it was just part of cost cutting reorganization. So that was the end of that one. I got a job 1 month after with a subsidiary of Airtel. So that job, it was a data analyst role. The title of the job role is MIS and an executive business analyst and MIS. Then they put executive somewhere. Maybe it's executive MIS and business analyst. That was the first time I was seeing the job role. But the recruiter was recruiting from India. So I think for her, the major requirement was she wanted someone that was already in the telecoms field. So she cared so much about that she did not bother to check that I was not even doing anything related to the job description. So, but anyhow, they interviewed me via Skype. I passed. I don't know how they decided that I passed. Then I got the job. So it was when I resumed the job that my senior colleague that was, it wasn't like my real manager, but was like those kind of person that is not your line manager, but it's also like your manager. When your manager is not around, he's the one who is filling in for your manager. It was not the one looking at my profile and I was like, this is not, there's nothing matching. The only thing that is there is just that I used to be in telecoms field. I used to be on the field. Now this one is back office and it's Excel. I was asking, do I know Excel? I said I know Excel. That's what I thought I know Excel, but I also know that I don't know it very well. But every question I ask, do I know VLOOKUP? I've never heard of it my whole life. So I only know pivot table. But that was my first job and it was a baptism of fire. Telecoms industry data is huge. I was in a product where I was in a department where we were doing for Airtel Africa. So it was like then Airtel was in 10 countries in Africa. They had taken over Zane's operation. So they were phasing out what used to be Zane's technology and replacing it with what they use in India. And so nobody hand over to me. There was not like, oh, this is the reports we do on Monday. This is what you do on Friday. There was nothing. Everything was just, this is the data. We need to see analysis. So I had to, luckily I survived and then I thrived. So that was I now find I love this job because to me, it was like a downgrade. If I got another offer that was like the job I got sacked from or downsized from, I would have jumped at that one. I even kept trying to change my job while I was there. But as much as it looks like a lower level job, I was interacting with all the senior level managers. I was reporting directly to head of Africa, the MDs and the global head of that particular unit uses my report, sometimes emails me directly. When I was in technical, the only time that your name, the managers know you or they hear about you is if you are the one that spoiled something or something broke down, it was your fault. So it's never a good thing when you surface up to the manager. It means something is wrong and you are the reason for it. That's why your name is flowing around with them. So uh, what is good is when nobody sees you and you're just, here and there on the field, living your own life. You don't even want to talk to them. We always think they don't know anything, and which is true. They don't know the technical side. But we used to overestimate what we think we know. So, fortunately, I was kicked out of that kind of environment. Unfortunately, I found that I thrived in the data analysis space, and I saw value. I saw the little things they look simple to me. I saw how much they were driving the business, how they use that to plan for budget, how they use that to set what they will approve. bonus, make big plans, spend big money, money that I probably can never make. My entire 1 year salary is probably not up to 1 day of that amount. I wanted to say maybe I cannot make in my lifetime, but then I say let me change that because as an entrepreneur, you can actually imagination is your limit. So it's now changed my orientation. I felt really valuable. I saw that every small thing I did as improvement was helping people high up and was driving bigger value. So that's how I got addicted to this field. And then I started learning. So because every small thing I do as an addition, I saw the impact. So I was motivated. I would start reading. I was learning as seriously as I was in university. I was trying to learn new things, try new things that I learned, and I was seeing the improvement. I was seeing the benefit, and I kept learning more, learn shortcut, memorize shortcut. One of my colleague once said that the when he joined the company and they put us, so all of us used to have like one room together that we work out from. He said he used to think I was like something was wrong with me, like maybe I had some mental or like I was mad or something. That he would just see me from morning till maybe around 2 p.m. I would just be like furiously typing on the keyboard. I will not touch the mouse. It was when he mentioned it now occurred to me. What I had done was this. I had memorized all the keyboard shortcuts that I used for everything I was doing for my report. Because that report, when I joined, we do report for 10 countries. Some countries are 2 hours ahead of us. Kenya, they were 2 hours ahead of us. Sierra Leone was 1 hour behind us. So I had to be doing them in such a way that the people that are ahead, I finished their own before the people that are behind. And I will still be closing 7 and I will be closing really late. So I tried to look for everything to make my work faster. So I started learning new formulas. I started learning shortcuts. I started learning new ways to do things. So the shortcut one, maybe I overdid it. So I printed all the shortcuts for every single thing I used to do. I started memorizing them. So that was what he noticed, that I was just, working furiously and don't touch the mouse. But that was how much I was motivated by every single thing I was doing. So that was the beginning of the lifetime journey. From there, I changed my job again to another telecom, my previous boss. But when he asked me what I now do, he was really impressed. So he didn't even move me to technical. He could have moved me to technical. On my job, bro, it was the same technical that I wanted to do. But he said he needs me more, that they have that gap on the analytics side, and that's where we have more value. So, and I was enjoying it anyway, but I should automate that. Unlike the previous company that I was coming from, the Airtel one, there were three of us. This one, I'll be the only one, and I should not, they don't expect me to be doing that full time. So it was like, I better use macros, VBA, to automate all the report because he cannot afford to have me just doing only reports. So and that one helped me with my macro level. I had to learn macro and I was applying it. I will come to work on Saturdays because I wanted to finish it. He gave me 1 month, but by 1 month I was not done. So that's how much I would go. And my office was far from my house. So I will leave home 5 a.m. I will get home. If I'm lucky, I'll get home 10. If I'm not lucky, I've gotten home 12:30 midnight, and I have to wake up again by 4:30, be out of the house by 5 a.m. So it was that kind of huge distance, and but I never saw that stress. Why? Because I was just happy that everything I was doing, there was it was as if I was creating literal value, kind of. So what was it? So I was going even on weekends sometimes, just so that I can do the macro. So I became good at macro via that, and then I started getting projects from other clients here and there. I was blogging too, so I had this my blog. I was a bit of a small celebrity one time. Uh, my blog was a bit popular. I was getting like I used to also write on Bella Niger and some other places. So I had a blog then. So about I don't know, maybe 20,000 people used to read it a month. It was a big number at that time. This was 2012, 2013. I used to make money. Google used to send me check every month, AdSense check. So I used to now get people because anything I learn, I try and put it on the blog. So people were reaching out to me, oh, I want to automate something, I want to do this. And then the ones I could do, I was able to do them. Then I started training people too. So gradually, I found out that I enjoy the analytics more than any aspect of the work. And then I later resigned and started doing it full time. So that was my journey, and I've not looked back since 2014 when I resigned to my boss. People didn't believe it when I told them it's Excel I was going to do. I resigned to be doing Excel. They thought maybe I'm saying that so that they will not ask me which company I'm going to. It was like 2 years later when they really saw that the market was not lying. He's actually doing Excel, so like Excel of all things. But me, I never thought about it. I did something I enjoy, and I did the mathematics of the salary I was earning and what I was getting part time. I was getting like half of my salary. I felt okay if I was working only Saturday and Sunday, and I'm getting half of what I do from Monday to Friday. Let me just maybe if I do it full day, I will probably get at least I will make my salary. So that was my calculation, but that calculation did not work correctly. For the first 5 months, I did not make even up to what I used to make when I was doing it part time. I was like, oh my God. So, but later things slowly bounced back, and I got many temptations. People, wanted to help me with getting a job. Even some of the people I worked for wanted to give me job. I said, no, I'm not going back. That if I, if I accept your job offer, I'm going to resign again. That was really way that they stopped helping me with the job. But I don't update the blog anymore. So, that's a problem. Once you are an entrepreneur, when you have your own company, but I don't update it. You can't talk too much anymore. It was something that was tough for me to learn, but I learned it from. Have you heard about the story of this man, the MD of Nissan Renault, CEO of Nissan Renault? Uh, So I watched his video. There was a video from my CEO, the Lebanese guy that got into problem. This man. I watched his video. I was on a flight to was it Dubai, and so I watched it. And the one thing I learned from that video is if you are leading a team, no matter how small the company, you need to dial down what you do, how you put out your personal life. So this place I knew people who knew me better than my family member because they were reading my blog. Just some of them are not here, but there were people who knew everything about my life that sometimes when I get to meet them in person, I'm like, how did you know all of this? They say it's on your blog. So it was not a problem for me, but the moment I now had a business, it created conflict because it made it very difficult to have a harmonized message to my team, and then maybe they get a different message on my blog. But whereas my personal life and my work life are different, but and then I saw some things that this man, most of the problem he got into was because simply it was too much out there. Giving it was giving interviews to celebrity newspapers. That was the one big aspect of the problem he got into. And I saw some people too had the same problem. So and then right now where I'm working too. I'm happy I stopped. So also when you are moving up career ladder in terms of maybe as a consultant or some strategic partnership, they search you out. So if you are someone that is always talking on Twitter and doing a lot of personal conversation and all these opinionated things, it's just someone will always find something to twist. So that was why I stopped anyway. I tried to do an anonymous blog, but it didn't take off. So I just like, well, I'll just write fiction stories. So what I now did is I'm writing a fiction story. Let me show you I published one already. So I decided, well, that's the only thing you can do if you really want to write. Why don't you just write something nobody can, because it's fiction anyway. So, but that's been my story so far. And advice. Okay, the other thing he asks is, what's your advice to people just starting? It's very difficult to even know what to advise, but I can say two types of advice. One is maybe if you're at that stage where earning an income, that's your biggest concern, how to earn a comfortable income. I would say doing data analysis is a sure way. You will not be like right now, people in education. I see a lot of people who are lecturing, who are working as research fellows in university, they're complaining that their salaries are very small. Their salary does not grow. They are not happy about their salary. I've been seeing it so frequently. You know, you will never have that kind of problem. In fact, you will be the people that when you go with your friends who are in that space, you will not want to talk about your salary because you will be the one making them feel bad. So you won't have a money problem. That's the thing if you do data analysis. So the other advice is now, okay, it's about the passion part. So for me, I'm doing this purely, like I told you, I resigned when Excel was not, data analysis was not anything interesting. In fact, I was not a data analyst. I think I used to Excel expert. That's what they call us. So there was no job title really that was data analyst when I started. So it wasn't like maybe I saw the future and I jumped in, So well, just purely this is what I enjoy doing, and I think it can make me up to what my salary was, and that was all. I didn't even think of what about salary increase, what about vacation, what about security. I didn't think of any of all those ones. So for me, where if you are that kind of person that this is something you genuinely enjoy, then the other advice is this: is that be creative, go on the creator side. Why? The competition is crazy stiff. What do I mean by competition is crazy stiff? There will always be new tools. There will be something new. So if you're the kind of person that you don't care, you care about just the money part, you just maybe get into a good company, make sure what the company's culture is like. If you know the company likes automation, they like all these big word things, they're a Microsoft store, just be learning what they like, be beefing up your CV, be having certifications, and then be occasionally putting word out there, be checking your profile against what recruiters are looking for. As long as you're in a big company that has similar competition, you are good. You don't have to worry about be blogging or creating content. You just make your CV, very well padded, make it beefy. So that's good on that part. But if you are someone doing it for passion, then what you want, like that's what I'm doing. It was passion that got me started. It's difficult to keep going with passion, but I try my best. Then I have to be on the creator side. Why? The problem is you can never master all these things. They will keep bringing new tools. So what will happen is that if you are not creating, you will you will be trying to master Excel, master Power BI, but they've added Microsoft Fabric, they've added OpenAI, they've added ChatGPT, they've added Azure Synapse Analytics. So what will happen is you are trying to master the one that they did 7 years ago. You are still struggling to master it. They've added all these new things. So you start looking obsolete. So the only way you can be differentiated is if you are writing book, if you are writing blog content, you are the authoritative voice when somebody wants to learn Power BI or wants to, you don't even need to be super authoritative. You just need to have consistent track record of creating content. Then they see you in a different dimension. They see you as like a super expert. They are not going to compare you with the person who just has a CV that is padded with a lot of things. You have book that you have written, you have courses that you have built, you have blog contents that, content, YouTube content and all of that has been existing over time. Except someone really hates you or just wants to not, give you that job, they are not going to consider you the same way as someone who has, all those other things. But the where it becomes uh difficult is you two cannot have the similar career progression as those people we have. So those people are going to maybe get promoted to some level where they will be supervising, setting the direction. They will not hire somebody who his life is all about Excel and Power BI. He does not want to think about anything outside of that. He does not want to look at how they can take new technology, and he is not even aware of those ones. They won't put you in a director role to set the direction for technology in their company, because everything you want them to do it in Power BI and Excel. So you can maybe exist as a consultant or be making money from your content, but you won't have that traditional company career ladder growth if that's what you are seeking. So it's usually one of those. So if you know where you want to fit, then don't mix it up. Otherwise, you will suffer in both places. Don't try to be trying to learn all the new things, and at the same time you want to be a subject matter expert and creating. You will burn out. you will, I don't even know how you survive. It's going to be very difficult. But then, if you know that you are, you are not tempted by all these new things, you might talk about them once in a while, but everybody knows that when it is Power BI, that's nobody's confused about that. Aha, then that's it. But if you know that you want to grow your career, become someone who they will promote in the company to set direction, let the company be aware of what to implement, then you better get ready and keep learning all those things and forget about you trying to create content or be expert or be like someone that knows it very, very, very deep. But at least be able to convince recruiters that you have 10 years, 5 years experience. So that's what for them, years of experience equal to expertise. So that's the only thing you can try to do. How can we have our portfolio for others to view? That's very easy. These days, you just like I'll give you an example. I have I have something I built in 2017. I still keep showing, even when I do interviews, I keep showing people because here now I have to do interviews for contract jobs. So it's as if they are hiring you for. Whereas in Nigeria, all you do is send your portfolio, send your profile. So, uh, apologies that it's showing some French words, but the point I want to bring out is this is a link. I just share you the link. That's all. You all know Power BI creates a link. So it's just share the link, and that's my profile. I have many of them. I have some other ones I've created. This is the one that is easy for me to remember the link for. So I build things. I have an app on Microsoft Store. In my own case, because I also write books, I'm able to go to Amazon and show them the book. So this is me, I built this. I have an API that I created. I don't try to show people the API because my API is not behind the firewall. So there was a time Azure was collecting huge money from me because people are using my API. So I had to remove it from the I had to make the website to not show anymore. But I have an API that I built. I have things that if you give me 1 hour to talk about what I've built, I'll be able to. I won't be able to say, I built this for one client, but I can't tell you about it. It's convenient. I have things that I will show you instantly, and that's what we call portfolio. It's something that you build. I built this one. It's there. It's live. You can install it. I can even demo it on the. And then by the time if you are interested by the time I talk about how I built it, you'll be amazed. I had to use C# to build an API, ASP.NET API. Then on top of that C#, I have an SQL that I built running Microsoft SQL that is running on an Azure server. Then I have VMs that are running Python script to scrape data. Then I have a task scheduler so I have like 7 things. I even have JavaScript. I built the thing with JavaScript. So that's the advantage when you like what you are doing. You go any length to get whatever. I will learn a language that maybe nobody is going to use just to get me going. So this one, if I click there and I use it in some, I built it. I don't need to email you and I can do a Zoom call and I'm showing you this and you are seeing it live. I built it. I don't know. You can't doubt. There's no doubt in portfolio anymore. So that's the thing with portfolio. Just build things. Okay. How can we view? I don't know. That viewing part is like I said, if it's something that is my own, I can always show someone. Worst case, I'm having a Teams call with you or Zoom call, and I'm showing you. That's it. You are essentially seeing it. Some other cases, if it's something you can't put on the web, you do screenshot of it and you have it on a place where they can see it. Okay, so thank you everyone. I'm looking at time. Wow, thank you very much. We need to end the meeting. Thank you. But thanks, Oladimeji, for bringing up the question. And thank you all for staying today. I hope at least you got some insights. It's now the world is things are it's always a compromise. If you want money, then money will be the thing that you'll be an expert at creating. You will just be looking for loopholes and to create money, almost like what Elon Musk is doing. Everybody knows he's talented, but right now it's not his talent that is making him the money anymore. It's his ability to do all those Machiavellian kind of things, take Twitter, People there, they were not going to be happy, So the other person that wants to just be a technical person and wants to be super, yes, he's going to be like maybe Vitalik, the guy who invented Ethereum. Everybody will respect him, but you know, everybody we know that is not actually the money guy. So it's always like that. The same thing too. If you put your passion too high, you will suffer on the money side. And if you want the career growth and money part, then you can't be too attached to anything. You have to be ready to drop a technology or drop a field and go to higher money paying something. But the thing is, you can always use this data analysis as your stepping ground. It's not, you have not made a wrong decision if you are starting with data analysis. It's currently in vogue. Next 2 years might not be. So thank you very much and have a wonderful week ahead. Bye.